Welcome to it, sports fans. It is the MKT show, and I am MKT, as you can see over here. That's me. This is Gareth Cliff. He's a different person, but I'm MKT. This is my show. Welcome to it. Hey, great day today. Less than 24 hours away from the NFL, which is huge. So 2 types of football coming back this weekend. This weekend, I am unavailable. Cannot wait for Gridiron to be back. Cannot wait. Of course, the Premier League, the greatest show on earth, and then the NFL. I mean, it just cannot get better. US Open is finally getting to the interesting part. But no Roger Federer, so you can just check in on the app. Today, I'm not alone. Woude Muller is back. Woude, what is happening?
Hello. Oh my gosh, it's nice to be back, actually. I missed you. I even missed Dave. I don't think I would ever say that out loud, but I do. But yeah, I'm doing really well, actually. What have I been up to? I've been boxing. I was boxing with Jack Parrow last week or 2 weeks ago. I started running again for the first time in 5 months. First time in 5 months. I went for a run on Saturday. I wasn't too bad, actually. Wasn't too bad. I ran 5:10 a kilometer for 6 kilometers for the first time in 5 months. I don't think it's too bad. It's not what I'm used to.
That's not bad at all.
No, it's not what I'm used to doing, but it's there. And like, it's good and bad that I'm running again. It's good because I can run and I love running, but it's bad because now I don't have an excuse to be fat anymore. So.
Ooh, it's tough. It is tough. It's going to test your character. Once you got no excuses, now it's all about you. Yeah. Upside, you can't fall off a stationary bike in your house now. That's probably an upside, you know? So,
well, I can't punch myself in the face in boxing, so don't put anything past me at the moment. So let's just leave it there.
Wow. All right. Well, Woude is back. Insane stories. Punching yourself in the face. That is, I don't even want to get into that. That sounds so well. So Woude Muller is back. Of course, Woude will be back. Interesting, of course, the All Black squad is out. They played North versus South. Woude's going to tell us a little bit about that a bit later. But let's get straight into it. We're going to get, as I said, the NFL's back, right? And we're going to just get straight into that because that is huge. For me, it is the second greatest league in the world, probably the best business model. I've said that enough times, but it's the best. It really is the best business model, and America's number one game. Nothing's close, right? As you can see over there, Patrick Mahomes. Right, surrounded by everybody else. Tampa Bay, of course, it's the Tampa Bay Gronkaneers. Tom Brady, the greatest to ever do it, 6 out of 9 Super Bowls. Just saying that sounds ridiculous in a league of parity. Aaron Rodgers, as you can see there, Lamar Jackson, the great pretender. But tomorrow, the 2 highest paid NFL quarterbacks, currently $42 million a year each. Deshaun Watson, Houston Texans. Of course, J.J. Watt's back. He says it's my first year not being injured in 8 seasons. So what a way to kick it off. 2 of the highest paid backs. I mean, these 2 guys, both born in 1995, and they just got broken off, like properly broken off. But I think the interesting one is, what's Tom Brady going to do, right? He's out. He's in a new system, and it's interesting. You know, he left academic Boston, if you've never been there, of course, Harvard, MIT, academic town, Boston Tea Party, high society. He left an academic place. He's now moved to the place where people retire in the desert in Arizona. He's down in Miami. By the way, he's living in Derek Jeter's house, in the most ridiculous house you could ever imagine. It's like a 30,000 square foot house. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely. So he's in Tampa Bay having the time of his life as Tom Brady. But can him and Bruce Arians get on the same page? Bruce Arians, he likes to have beers after practice. Bill Belichick, very, very different. Academic, go to work, doesn't get close to anybody. Can Tom Brady adjust to that? I think that's the great question. But I think for me, there's only really one winner. The other thread is Baltimore. But ladies and gentlemen, for me, you know, we can get straight to it. You can muck about with everybody else. Baker Mayfield, that'll be interesting in Cleveland, see what he does. Does Stefanski take the ball out of Baker's hands? I think that's the right choice. I think there's too much pressure on him. Odell Beckham Jr. just demands too much for a young quarterback. Baker had to do too much last year. I'm sorry. Take the ball out of Baker's hand, go 50-50, get that run game going. I think Saquon's probably your home run hitter. I think Saquon's the best running back in the league. But I think a very, very close Chubb Rock is spectacular. And they've got Chubrock. So put the ball in Chubrock's hands, let Baker relieve some of the pressure, that play action starts to mean something, and then maybe they lighten the box and maybe 2 pass rush instead of 3, and you'll allow that pressure to be off Baker. Let's see what Stefanski does, but I think that's the right tactic. Let's see how that goes. But ladies and gentlemen, there is only one winner. There is only one winner, and it's, this young man is absolutely sensational. Dave, you can give us the next slide. This young man, sensational. And you know what's incredible about him? I was listening to Colin Cowherd talking about what he sees as upsides for everybody. Lamar Jackson, of course, MVP, and phenomenal, but we've kind of seen what the ceiling is with Lamar. What's scary about Patrick Mahomes is he was only the 7th best passing quarterback. If you're looking at the Monday morning quarterback and football, is it the Football Focus? He's the 7th rated quarterback in terms of throwing. That's how good this young guy is. That's how much room he has to improve. He threw 50 touchdowns 2 seasons ago. 50. You haven't seen that since Tom Brady and Randy Moss. 50. He threw 50 in his first season. Last season was just wild. I mean, coming back 3 times in all of the games in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes, he's the guy, and he's only 7th best in the league right now. I mean, nobody can do what he does. Right? You've either got Hall of Fame Tom Brady, he's going to manipulate the pocket, or you've got Lamar Jackson, freak athlete. This guy's both. His father was a professional baseball player, so he's got those genes. And then he's got Andy Reid. Listen, no matter where you are in life, I don't care how talented you are, if you don't have people around you to reassure you that you're the best and hold you to your standards. And he's got Andy Reid, who believes in him, number one, but holds him to higher standards. Patrick Mahomes, it's not even a question. This team's insane. They've got Mr. 1% body fat. I mean, the wide receiving core. Sammy Watkins barely played last year, by the way. Sammy Watkins barely played last year. We're going to see him explode. It's contract year. I cannot wait. Tomorrow, Houston Texans taking on the champs. And what's great, Andy Reid said, hey, in normal years, guys go and party after they win a Super Bowl. He's saying this year, we couldn't. Lockdown. Cannot wait. NFL, greatest sport in America, second greatest show in town this weekend. Tomorrow, folks. Oh, man, I cannot wait. Tomorrow's all Premier League. So join me tomorrow. I'll go through the fantasy league properly. I'll give you my top 4 and my relegation favorites. I might even give top 6. We'll see how it goes. But I cannot wait. Tomorrow, full Premier League show. No interruptions, no rugby, no cricket, no tiddlywinks. All Premier League, all the time. Greatest show on earth is back. NFL tomorrow. Cannot wait. Patrick Mahomes. By the way, I'm a Vikings guy. Kirk Cousins, if I die, I die. Listen, it is what it is. Probably 9-7, 10-6. Let's see how it goes. Really looking forward to it. But as I said, Woude Muller is back. So for today, let's cross over to the skip pass with Woude Muller.
It is, like I said, nice to be back. I'm very excited because there was at least good rugby on again this weekend. But I think there's so much that has happened, and I had to kind of choose what I'm going to talk about. And as I was going through the news and looking at everything that was happening, I came across this thing where the Sale Sharks have said they're going to be without 7 Springboks at the end of the year, because apparently these 7 players are going to be part of the Springboks training squad. Now, Mbolelo, I can't rant by myself. And I need you because I know that you're good at ranting and you love a good rant. As far as I know, Ninabe has not announced his training squad. It's not public yet. I've tried to look on the internet. I haven't found it. So why would Diamond, a coach for the Sale Sharks, all of a sudden, firstly, come out and be like, these are the 7 players we are going to be without at the end of the year? Secondly, those 7 players are not even good 7 players. The only one of them that has really been part of the Springbok side is Faf de Klerk. So let him be. You've got Rowan van Rensburg, who's got a bad attitude off the field and the bad attitude on the field, and that's the reason why he hasn't been playing Springbok. You've got Akker van der Merwe, which we all know that him and Rassie Erasmus don't get along, and their personalities crash, and then you have it. And then you've got the 3 de Pre brothers. Fine. I can deal with the twins, Dan and Jean-Luc. But Robert de Pre, The only reason why he was playing in 2018 for the Sharks was because his daddy was the coach. We know there was no other reason why he would have even been in that team, in that squad, or ever on that field. So thank you, Daddy, for allowing me to play. Then if you look at his Wikipedia page, they're talking about how well he played against the Blues in 2018 and that they beat the Blues 63-40 or something when they were in New Zealand. The Blues were crap in 2018. They only won 4 matches in the entire campaign in 2018. So don't come to me about that he was a good player. And then we know Kerwin Bosch got kicked out of playing number 10. So why would it even be considered that he would be part of the Springbok squad? When we've got our players here already, it's not like we're lacking depth in that position anyway. And you can't pick a guy who's had one good career or one good year in his entire career when he was 20 years old and now think that he's going to make it at international level. Okay, I can breathe.
Wow.
And I'm not done. Is this the
Please
media?
go ahead, buddy.
Is this the media that is trying to write things, that is trying to say like, oh no, he was part of our radar, he needs to be in the team because we had an eye on him when he was 20 years old? Is it them trying to write him up? Because like I said, the squad hasn't been announced yet. So is this the media that is trying to talk him up so that someone has to look at him? Why? What are they trying to do? And he's not the starting 10 at Sale Sharks.
He is not. No, exactly. No, he's
exactly. Okay.
Wow, Woude, I think you've done a fine job ranting there. My gosh, Woude, what you need to do is really let us know how you really feel. I think that's you're holding back a bit, and that makes it difficult for us to kind of know what's in your mind, you know.
Okay.
But so, I couldn't agree more. Like, what is actually happening here? Like, okay, let's go through it. In his mind, is he? I'm trying to think. If he was playing mind games, he's playing mind games with the Springbok team. I don't know. His team, like, is he trying to motivate his players to become Bok level? I mean.
Know. And it's all 7 players. It's all 7 players. Yeah, it's all 7 players in the Sale Sharks team. No, you're going to be like, oh, they are so freaking amazing. They're all going to make it into the Springboks. What are you actually trying to do? Your only good player that was, good player, because we all know how I feel about Lauded, and I don't think he's Springbok level material, but he got injured, so he can't be picked. But so technically they are without 8 players in his mind. What? I don't get it. Please, can someone explain this to me?
Woude, you've nailed the rant. I thought I'd have to help you, but you have nailed it. There's nothing to add. You know, when you've done that well, Woude, I thought I'd have to get involved, but yeah, speechless. You've taken everything that needs to be said.
Okay. So if anyone has got an answer to these questions that I just posed to everyone out there, please let me know, because I can't see it. I don't get it. And I normally get a lot of things, but this one I don't get. Yes.
Weird.
Okay, so now that I've built up my emotions, I feel like I need to let it down again. But I feel like with my next topic, Owen Farrell and his ridiculous tackle on the youngster Charlie Atkinson last week. And then getting the slap on the wrist of 5 weeks. Okay, I get it. And I'll talk about it now. But then they want to use one person on his charity event where he does charity work to write him a testimonial to be like, oh no, but look what he does off the field. He does charity work off the field, so he's not a bad person. What does that have to do with anything that he does on the rugby field? What does it have to do with the fact that he almost ended a guy's career with a tackle? And remember, this is the first, and if you guys haven't seen this tackle, I know Googling and YouTubing European or rugby or Northern Hemisphere rugby is really boring and you don't really want to waste your time on it. But you can just go onto Twitter or go onto YouTube, just Google the Owen Farrell tackle and you will all understand what I'm talking about. I think this is probably the easiest red card that has ever been handed out in rugby, ever, that I've seen. And I don't know if you disagree with me on Bololo, but I think that was pretty straightforward. Red card. But this is the first time that Owen Farrell's been sent off in his entire career. We remember that tackle in 2018 on Andre Esterhazy. Remember that tackle? That's not tackle, shoulder charge. It is on that tweet, Dave. So if you bring up that tweet again, we can see the shoulder charge on Andre Esterhazy. And then he didn't, and I think, so, I mean, not even trying to wrap his arms around him. Not even trying. The tackle is not even the worst thing about that. When he didn't get penalized for it and he didn't get yellow carded or red carded for that, he celebrated. A guy was knocked out on the rugby field, literally hit concussion, everything, and he celebrated that. What kind of person does that? And he's the England captain. 3 weeks after that tackle, he had another crazy tackle on Isaac Rodda, I think. And that also went unpunished. That tackle is not on here, but that also went unpunished. And then in the World Cup final, his tackles were also not good. So why all of a sudden now did they give him a red card? Because he couldn't get away with it anymore, too much in the eyes, or they just realized it is absolutely insane what he is doing. Okay. Then we go to the disciplinary hearing. He goes, he shows remorse, he gets testimonials from his coaches and from the CEO at Saracens and all of these, or the owner at Saracens. Of course, they're going to say he's a good guy. They don't want their guy to be banned. So initially, he got a 10-week sentence that he's not allowed to play rugby for 10 weeks. And I think it makes sense that it got halved, so it's 5 weeks, which means he's back on the 5th of October, which means he's going to be back to be captaining England against Italy on the 31st of October when they play in Rome with the revised Six Nations competition. So, but now you've got a youngster whose career could potentially have been ended. The guy's 18 years old. He's a youngster. He just started playing rugby. And you could potentially end his career with a concussion, with a neck injury, with a serious, very serious injury. So Farrell is a senior player. He's England's captain. What do we expect from a guy like that? Mbulelo, do you have any answers on that thing, or on that front?
I think, you know what it's like. The only example I can think of in like real life is there's a reason you train your puppy from when it's a puppy not to pee inside, you know? The thing with Owen Farrell is they let him go early. And I obviously saw the tackle on the weekend. That's not his worst tackle ever. In fact, the Esterhazy one, which is a bona fide red card, even in the 90s, even in the 90s, that's a red card, isn't the worst one he's ever done. Some of his tackles, by the way, in the British and Irish Lions tour to New Zealand recently when they drew the series, they straight reds, not like go upstairs. So I don't get it. I think, this is where we start to wonder, Woude, and I'd like to hear what you think. Now we start to wonder.
If this was a Fijian or a Samoan player or someone from a smaller island, what would have happened then? They would have had career-ending decisions made about those tackles, especially happening week after week or test after test. Now he's playing European rugby, he's playing in the Northern Hemisphere. We know it's being controlled by the people in the Northern Hemisphere, so he gets away with a slap on the wrist. I'm sorry, it's not okay.
Great point. And that's what I was going to ask, because this opens up the question is like, are you protecting him because he's the captain of the most economically sort of profitable brand in world rugby? And then that's not acceptable because, I'm sorry, that's tantamount to match fixing, right? Yeah. Is also, Woude, you brought up a great point just now. He's been suspended, I think it's 10 weeks, but 5 weeks suspended or something like that. So it's only 5 in the end, him.
So the rule is that for the worst dangerous play that you can get, the worst you can get is 10 weeks. And then if it's your first tackle that you get cited for, it gets halved. So that's a pretty normal citing. It's a pretty normal disciplinary hearing. There's nothing weird about it. But the fact that he's not been sent off before, this is what people are saying now. If you defend Owen Farrell in any way, I also don't want to have a conversation with you about this. Because the fact that he hasn't been sent off before does not mean that he is not a dirty, dangerous player that can potentially ruin youngsters' careers and other players' careers. In fact, I was looking, we've got the 40-year anniversary of of the Chris Berger and Pietro Jackson Players Fund. So 40 years ago, Chris Berger, obviously very dangerous, like he broke his neck and he died. Pietro Jackson, exactly the same. And BoxSmart was then created in 2009. It's for people that don't know, it's a scientific-based program or project that started to protect players from head and neck injuries. And it's been very successful. I think it was a 63% reduction in acute spinal injuries at school level. I think there was a 52% reduction in permanent catastrophic injuries in the club game. So it's very successful. But this is at the lower level where they can actually control it. Now, the senior players keep getting away with it. The guys are supposed to be the people that you look up to and set the example for the young players, keep getting away with it. So what are you going to do? You can't play like this anymore. I'm sorry.
It's sickening. It's absolutely sickening that they let him get away with it. Because here's the thing about him as a player. It's like, dude, you're already tough. It's almost like, you know what the syndrome is? He's got the syndrome, I think, of the Dupree brother who's really not good enough, Robert, is he almost had to be extra tough because of who his dad was as well. Just so nobody would say his dad let him in. So, hey, Owen Farrell, loser stuff. But let me just ask you this. Here's where, again, my thoughts on how amateur I think rugby is. Why don't they suspend people for games? Stop doing the stupid week thing. Yeah. He should be suspended for 5 test matches. Because, once again, Woude, now I think to myself, IRB and English and Welsh Rugby Board are probably talking and going, oh, when is there no rugby? Suspend him then. Right? Yeah. And once again, that's match tampering. And now, like you said, if it was a Fijian and if it was a South African, quite frankly, I'm sorry, it's not biased to say South Africa's really had the short end of the stick. So what are we going to do about this? Because, Woude, how you punish people in life is money. And they get paid to play rugby games. Pay to play. Rugby is a dangerous sport. They only pay you when you play. Take the money out of his pocket. I promise you, do that for 5 games. And then Farrell's not doing it. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But do you also think that you need to look at the coach and at the tackling coach and the defense coach and say, why haven't you tried to change his behavior? Because they are accepting this behavior of this player in their team. So now, and remember now they want to bring in this rule where if a player gets a red card, after 15 minutes, another player is allowed to come back on. So in this situation, he did that. The replacement, Charlie Atkinson was a replacement, or now got injured and he's off the field. So the other team is now negatively affected by this act of this player. But now this team can bring someone on again in 15 minutes time, which is not okay. And that's why I don't agree with that rule. If you can't get your players in line to not do stupid stuff like this, you don't deserve any sort of, any sort of understanding from anyone. And it's just as much the coach's responsibility as it is the player's responsibility. And I think the players around them should also get punished by only playing with 14 people, because you will only take responsibility if someone else around you maybe also gets affected by it. Oh.
Yeah. I think you're making some good points. Woude, so now my thing becomes the Farrell thing. I think it goes back once again, like the training the puppy thing, is they let him out early. But here's the real mistake they made, or they're in a bit of a trap, right? And I'd like to hear what you think about this. But my opinion is they're in a bind, is they've built the brand around him because he's the pin-up boy. And remember, he's not just England's pin-up boy. He's going to be British and Irish Lions captain. So it's an economic decision. Right? Sport and economics are now in a fight because you suspend him and you start to have him as a bad boy. Do Land Rover want to be associated with that? Woude, you work in the corporate world. You understand. If there's one thing corporates hate, it is So do you think they're in a trap? They're in a trap. They cannot afford for their, because look how much the England brand suffered, right? When they had Dylan Hartley. They kind of got this bad boy image when Hartley was captain, and somehow we heard Charlie Hodgson, who will get back on, by the way. I'd like to hear what he thinks about his. Yes. Remember, he's the top scorer up in Newcastle, and the greatest point scorer, in fact, the Premier League has ever seen up north. And I'd like to hear his thoughts to say they've now tied themselves to Farrell. So now what do you do?
Yeah.
You can't U-turn now. The British Lions are here next year, less than 12 months.
Yeah. This is kind of why I always think that, is it a good thing? And the whole Sam Cane situation, again, we can move on to that now, is the same thing. So you bind yourself to choosing a captain so early that now you can't really, how do you change it now? How do you go back on telling a guy, you're my captain, we're building our team around you, and you remove that person now, what do you do? That's why I don't think in a team sport, it's the best thing to build it around a certain player. Because the moment that player loses out or is not great or gets injured, you kind of like chickens whose head got cut off and you don't know which way to run.
See, that's where we disagree. I'm all about systems. And I know you've always had this opinion, and it's an interesting one. I'd like to hear what people think. But for me, I love system. It's like, you guy's the captain. We now know Sam Cane for the next 2 World Cups. Anybody who doesn't come in with the right attitude, he's the captain. Fit in or get the hell out. I love it.
Think
system over talent.
No, I can't 100% agree with you on that, and I don't think we'll ever agree on that, because I do think, I understand where you're coming from, but I do think you need to have the opportunity to make changes and to adapt to them. And if something is not working in your system, if one cog is not working, you need to replace that cog for a system to still work. So you also need to do repairs every now and then. So if the thing is not going to be working and it's going to be hitching and it's going to be glitching and it's going to not like function 100%, do you just keep going with it?
So, but now I presume you're now talking about Sam Cane. I think that the Farrell thing's a different animal because the British Lions are close. There's a whole different beast. But let's move on to. I presume you're talking about Sam Cane now. Do you think because you've seen enough and he struggled at the Chiefs, what happens if he plays well for the All Blacks within that system? Because it's 2 completely different things, right? Or what will you say then?
Yeah, so before I get to him, so obviously the Northern and South Islands played each other this weekend, and I watched it. I don't know if you watched it in Bolelo, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. There were 7 lead changes in the game, and in typical Crusaders fashion. And this is again where you and I can say to the people, do you see that the Crusaders is the best team out there? Because basically the Crusaders team beat the other team. Now you can go and say, yes, they're used to playing together and the North are not used to playing together, blah, blah, blah. Look how well this whole thing is working. So they snatched it at the buzzer, 38-35, with a brilliant try from Will Jordan, a brilliant kick from Josh Ione, that guy. Brilliant on-point kick. And then you see how important it is to be good in the air. If Will Jordan wasn't good at taking the ball out of the air, that try would never have happened. So it shows you how important that is. And again, it shows you how important it is to have a backline that works together. So I loved it. I think it was probably the closest to what we've seen of Test rugby in a while. It was a very, very good game for me. And yes, you can say it was probably kind of the trials for the All Blacks team. So that maybe the people up their game. One thing that I will give you is that your Damian McKenzie played really well. I think it was the best game he has had in a very long time. He wasn't on form before. He had a very, very good game. And what I did see, and this is probably where I've changed my mind about who should be my 15, I think the lines that he runs from the 15 position is much better than Jordie Barrett. So I think that combination of him in the back line, the lines that he runs, his speed that he can work off the back was absolutely brilliant. If he can work a little bit on his kicking, not a bad option to have it fall back. But again, the All Blacks have absolutely no problem with depth in their squad. So talking about Sam Cane, I am not impressed by what I've seen of him, not from a play point of view and not from a captain point of view. And I've said this before, that I just don't think that he's really stepped up to that point. If you look at how Sam Whitelock dealt with the team over the weekend, how he dealt with the referees over the weekend, how he really puts his foot down and puts that, like he's really, I just feel like he could probably be the better captain. I think the only reason why he's probably not captain, he's already 32. So maybe they think that he might not make the next World Cup. I'm not sure. Sam Cane just hasn't proved it to me. And like we know, the Lucy situation in New Zealand is insane. Absolutely, absolutely insane. So, Mboleo, you can have a look with me at the squad that was just announced. So I also don't really know why the squad was announced when they actually have no games coming up, test matches coming up, but it's an interesting squad that they have. So the props, they've got Joe Moody, Alex Hodgman. That's an interesting call for me. I don't think he's really proved himself yet. Ofa Tuanga Fassi, Lomax, Loalala, and Tuanaga, that guy. So it's pretty solid and pretty a lot of depth. The only reason why I think Alex Hodgman probably made it is Joe Moody and Tuanga Fassi. They were actually put under the pump quite a bit on Saturday. And Alex Hodgman was part of that. So I would like for him to see him step up in test careers. Hookers, we've got Cody Taylor, Dane Coles, no surprise there. And Asafa Amua really, I think, deserved that last spot for the Hookers. Hope he gets a call up. I hope he gets a chance to play. He's really worked hard to get himself that position. I do think probably a problem that Ian Foster will have to look at are the lineouts. There were quite a few lineout mishaps over the weekend. Throws, I think there were about 3 throws that went straight, a few that went right over the lineouts. So that will be a bit of a headache for Ian Foster and something that they will definitely need to work on. Your locks, you've got Patrick Terpelatu, Sam Whitelock, obviously the starting ones. You've got Bahia and Quinton Strange. I don't know what you think of Quinton Strange and Malelo, but I like to see more. I think one's place where they don't have a lot of depth is actually in the lock position at the moment. So they've got a lot of guys that have upped and up and played better, but none of them, I think, have really upped it to test level just yet. So I'd like to see what he would do. I think Perry Parkinson's very unlucky to miss out, but he is injured, so that's probably the reason why he's missing out. I thought Mitchell Dunshire played really well over the weekend, so it would be interesting to also see if he would eventually get a call up. But none of them have really been able to step it up for me in that lock position. Loose forwards, we've got Shannon Frizzell, Sam Cane, Ardie Severe, Cullen Grage, Hoskins Tutu, Akira Ione, and Dalton Papili. I mean, how much more depth do you need in a loose forward position? There's not even any space. There's not even any space for, oh my gosh, what's his name? I just forgot his name. The guy from the Chiefs, Lachlan Boscheb. There's no space for him. Although I probably would have picked him over Cullen Grace. I don't think, But just look at that. Now, you're going to build your entire team around Sam Cane, okay? Or your entire back row. Shannon Frizzell's most probably the in-form 6 at the moment. Where are you going to play Ardie Severe? Are you going to play him at 8? We saw what Akira did over the weekend. We saw what Hoskins Tutu can do. Papili is probably the best option off the bench because I think the impact that he brings off the bench is immense. So are you going to play Ardie at 8? Are you going to play Ardie off the bench? Just because Sam Cane has to be in that position because he is the captain. If you look at what Sevilla and Ione did over the weekend, how well they gelled and how well they played together, those offloads, those runs from Akira, I mean, that was ridiculous. He looked like he was a center, a wing running down the line, if you want to call it that. And just those offloads from them, Sam Cane just doesn't bring that for me. And I'm happy to give him a chance to see what he does in the All Black squad. I'm happy to see what he can do as a captain. You don't need a captain. You've got Sam Whitelock, who's a brilliant captain. And then you've got Aaron Smith, who I think has also been actually quite good in uplifting teams who are struggling. We saw TJ Perenara starting at the weekend. 40 minutes, they changed him around. And the North just kind of picked it up with Aaron Smith at the back of that scrum, or the back of the pack. So you don't need, it's not like there are not any other options for great captains in the All Black squad. So I think the best option would probably have been, don't call your captain immediately before you saw the squad and before you saw what they did. So I don't know. I don't know who's going to be the loose forwards, the back three, purely because he has to be in that number 7 jersey. It's just not doing it for me. Anyway, like I said, the scrum halves, Aaron Smith, TJ Perenara, Brad Weber. Brad Weber probably had his best game over the weekend. Fly halves, we've got Richie Mo'unga, Beauden Barrett, and that pisses me off. Why is Beauden Barrett being picked for the squad if he's going to Japan next year? Why not give another youngster a chance to play if we know that he's not going to be there? Give him the year off. His wife's pregnant. She's going to have a baby soon. Give him the year off. Let him go to Japan. Develop another player because we know that he's not the best 10. We don't need him.
That's a tough one.
You don't need him right now.
That is a tough one. You know my thoughts on Beauden Barrett.
I know. We've got Braden Eno, Jack Goodhue, Ricky Ioane, and Anton Leonard-Brown.
Loaded.
Loaded. Braden Eno, I'm not sold on Eno. And I think the reason why he looks so good is because he was in the Crusaders setup. And I'm not sure if he will look that good in a test match. Although he is injured now, so unfortunately he's out for 9 months. He did his ACL, so he's not going to play. So it'd be interesting to see who Ian Foster is going to replace him with. Is it going to be Luamape, who's also injured, but he should be back soon because I think he's only got 3 months off. Is it going to be Amaga Jensen, who I think is obviously a very good option, and I would love to give him a chance in an All Black jersey. So it'd be interesting to see who Ian Foster is going to replace him with. And then your outside backs, Geordie Barrett, George Bridge, Will Jordan, Caleb Clark, Severies, Damian McKenzie. I feel sorry for any team who has to face that back line.
That is some squad. So let's go back. I mean, the interesting one for me is the fly-half situation. Here's a chance to why did you play 2 distributors? For me, I don't know why the All Blacks have never considered. Mo'unga's a beefy kid. You could play Mo'unga as much as I love him, and I think he's the best 10 in the world. They're clearly, clearly the pin-up boy is Beauden Barrett, right? He's the guy. Yeah. The All Blacks are also a financial machine. Not every selection, I'm afraid, at this level is just about ability. They've probably got certain contracts set up around the world. You know, Barrett has been the World Player of the Year, basically 3 years in a row. He's been unstoppable outside of Pieter-Steph Toy. So what about Barrett at fly half and Mo'unga at 12? Because then you've got 2 distributors and you don't need a bully at 12. So I would look at it and don't discount it. I would say, remember, you gave me that face, I think it was 2 years ago now, when I told you that Malcolm Marx would never ever wouldn't be our World Cup starter at hooker. I remember you, and I forget the other gentleman's name. Don't discount it. Don't discount Beauden Barrett because they need to try something different there. Because Laumape, for me, I'm out.
No, they have to do something with Beauden Barrett. Beauden Barrett is going to play in the next World Cup. Like I just said, not having him in the squad right now because he's not playing for New Zealand next year. He's kind of taking a sabbatical. He's going to Japan. So he's not really going to be playing Test rugby because they need him to be fit in 3 years' time. By the way, we're exactly 3 years out from the opening match of the 2023 World Cup. How crazy is that?
Jeez, that's unbelievable.
How crazy is that?
COVID.
I think 2 days ago, we're exactly 3 years out from the 2023 World Cup in France. I can't believe it. It's literally a year has gone by. So anyway, they're going to need Beauden Barrett there. So they're going to have to find another option. It's an interesting thing because remember I spoke about Richie Mo'unga before and in the Crusaders setup where he actually played off 13 quite a few times. Where he wasn't the first receiver, he was actually the second first receiver in the back line. How they've changed that up. So it'd be interesting to see what Ian Foster is going to try with him and with the 2 of them. I did think that the combination between Barrett at 10 and McKenzie at 15 worked quite well. They played well together. But I don't know. I like Richie Mo'unga. I think Beauden Barrett is a good utility player. And that's exactly the reason I think why they've picked D-Mac as an outside back so that they can use him for cover in both. So I don't think they're too worried. I don't think they're too worried about picking a number 3 fly half because they can use him. They can use Geordie Barrett at fly half if they really need to. So I don't think they're too worried about that whole situation.
I think where they got the biggest problems is probably at inside center. They don't have like a genuine 12 fit at the moment, which is an interesting one. Because I'm out on Laumape, and the loose forwards I think will be interesting. Lots of athletic guys, but sometimes, as we've seen with the Springboks, is you don't want too many athletes. Sometimes you need, and I think Sam Cane gives you this, just like Sia did for the Springboks, is his job is, in fact, the more invisible Sam Cane is, just like Sia Kolisi, is if I see you, you're not having a good game because you're there to ball protect and you're there to be an irritation. So let's see how it goes. And I think you've made a lot of great points. It will be interesting to see what people think of Sam Cane's role, because the heat's going to be up. There are some electrifying players in that team.
What I will give him, his tackling rate has been very high, and he really made a lot of tackles in Super Rugby Aotearoa. So that's been great. He did give away a lot of penalties. His turnovers were okay. So like you said, we didn't really see the work unless you physically go look at his stats and see what he did. I'm not sold on him. I'm not sold on giving him a chance to prove himself. I just think on form right now, he's not the guy for me. But I hope he can prove himself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't see him getting dropped purely because he's also the perfect captain. He's got the look, clean cut, never going to say the wrong thing. He's probably,
he looks like
you know how
he looks like Richie McCaw's younger brother.
You know what I mean? It's like there was a factory. It's like there was a factory where they produced. It's like, oh, okay. If this is the, sort of the carbon original is, copy, control C and then control V, paste them. And this is it because, you have to think of the All Blacks.
Maybe I'm being hard on him because I'm comparing him to Richie McCaw. Maybe my expectations of him are just so high.
Well, I think, look, you have to also be honest. I think you're probably looking at the sporting side. The All Blacks are different to the rest of rugby, is they are the only really professional team, and they run more like a Formula One team, is the corporate side so powerful. So for me, as much as Ardie Savea, I like you, Barrett, I like you, but when I think of corporate, he could go and sit with CEOs. You look how he presents himself. He's clearly been through, and having spoken to this All Black legend who I'm still in touch with, says they've been training Sam Cane from way early on. Yeah. He's the perfect guy for the corporate side, and that's millions of dollars. And look out for the All Blacks, by the way, from a good source, to be expanding aggressively in America over the next 12 months. So there's a few things why maybe Sam Cane got picked, and I think you raise interesting points though, Vody. It's gonna be a big pressure on him. He's gonna have to perform.
But now the question is, who are they actually going to play? We don't know what's happening yet. They haven't made any decisions about who they're actually going to play and when they're going to start playing. So if you have the squad, it's great, but what now?
But the All Blacks are unique. I mean, Vody, I know you've probably watched all the documentaries and read all the books. For them, this is actually doing them a favor because it's such a big thing for the All Blacks is to learn the All Black way. You look how many new names are in there. There's a certain amount of sacrifice. I don't know if you've read Tana Umanga's thoughts after they lost in 2003, how they had to, they brought back Smith and he brought back the All Black way. There was a drinking culture in there. Now, after Graham Henry, they said, we're drawing a line. Wayne Smith came back. And he got rid of all the boozers, the drinkers. All of those guys had to go. Tana Umanga had to have a very awkward conversation with Wayne Smith. And so, I think this is a good time for the All Blacks, is these youngsters need to learn the All Black way. Listen, we don't care if guys like Laumape and, some of these flashy guys, nobody cares, guy. Yeah. It's cool that you do that in Auckland. You can do that at the Crusaders. When you come here, it's about the All Blacks. So for them, I think it's going to be great because the youngsters will be a year older in the system. Because Vody, for those who don't know, Vody is an SA athlete. To get to the top, it's a brutal business, right? Is you've got to almost brainwash yourself through the pain. Yeah. Is you got to crush your ego. Because I'm pretty sure, so Vody, you being at the top level for as long as you were, is that you got to crush your ego and you got to get real. There are certain things that are non-negotiable. So I wonder if that might be a good thing for the All Blacks to teach these young guys, Savea, these guys who are kind of flashy. This is the way. And this is how we win another 3-4 World Cups. So I'd be interested to see what they have to say.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting thing to think about. So yeah, that's
Mm.
it. That's the All Black squad. I mean, I think it's a very powerful squad. They've got a lot of youngsters in there, which means they can build them up for the next World Cup, the next one, and the next one. Because a lot of these guys are 21 years old, 21, 22. And
Wow.
so I think they're breeding grounds, what they're doing. Obviously, we know that it's brilliant. I think what's happening in South African rugby now, I spoke to one of the Springbok players the other day, and he was saying that they keep changing their date to start playing again. So at first it was going to be now end of September. Then they moved it to, I think, the 4th of October. Then they moved it again later. So they keep changing that date. And I think that's also a horrible way to have to train, because you're training. For those of you who don't know, you kind of train in blocks. You have a pre-season where you do certain things. You have an in-season where you do different things. And when you're playing matches, it's a completely different way to training. So you have to prep for that. And as the bio, the physio, the fitness trainer, whatever you're doing, you have to prep for that. And so keep changing that date is very, very difficult. And I would find it very interesting. It would be really interesting to speak to one of these coaches to see how are you adjusting to this the entire time. And it must be horrible for the players who just never know what's really going to happen. Yeah.
Brutal. It is. Hey, before we move on to that, and Woude, that's a great point. I mean, your field of expertise, that periodization must be an absolute nightmare right now.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
I'm glad it's not me.
Yeah, jeez. Tell me, of the All Black players, before we move on from that, is there anybody in particular who you've seen in the season that you're looking forward to seeing in an All Black setup? Because now you're not just in a good team where you are flourishing in and amongst maybe 4 or 5 good players. It's all of the best players in the best sort of league in the world. Is there 1 or 2 guys that you're kind of looking forward to in an All Black shirt where, hey, if you can't perform in an All Black shirt, that's your fault? For you youngsters to look out for?
Yeah, so I think Caleb Clark is definitely a good option to look out for. There were a few instances on Saturday where he actually was the missing link in that team. He didn't really fit in really well. So I think they're going to have to adjust the way that he plays quite a bit to fit in with the team and not just play for himself. So I think that would be an interesting thing for me. I do think George Bridge and Sever Reese will be the starting wings for the All Blacks anyway. Caleb Clark on the bench. I really like Will Jordan, what he's done in Super Rugby. He had an absolutely brilliant breakout season. And it would be interesting for me to see what he can do in an All Blacks jersey and at test level. Because we obviously know that the All Blacks play a certain way, the Crusaders play a certain way. How will he do? And the All Blacks don't necessarily kick as much as the English or the South African teams would do. So it'd be interesting for me to see how he will adjust to that. Yeah. So those 2 youngsters, I definitely think. Yeah.
That try, he nearly jumped out the stadium. Unbelievable athleticism. That guy is.
I've realized now he's actually
crazy.
Quite tall. He looks like a bit like lanky and small. He looks like George Bridge. Like, doesn't really look like a rugby player. But yeah, I think Caleb Clark will definitely need to adjust his attitude a little bit. Well, not his attitude, just his way of fitting into a team. But he's still young, so we can't be too hard on him on that. And then, like I said, I would be very interested to see who the loose forwards are, who they actually pick as a 3. I think it will definitely be Shannon Frizzell and Sam Cane. It'd be interesting to see who they pick at 8.
Electrifying stuff. That is going to be so good. Hey, Woude, that is good stuff, huh? That is good stuff. Good rugby coming up. And let's see, maybe South Africa can start to roll it out. I really feel for our guys. We'll see what we can do about getting some of the coaches and the players on, kind of get a look from inside the bubble. So over the next few weeks, we'll try and work on some coaches and guys to get in. I mean, what an awful situation.
Please send me some topics that you guys want me to talk about, because I'm not going to talk about Northern Hemisphere rugby. I don't know if you tried watching that Munster game on Friday night. It was an absolute sleep fest. And then you get that brilliant game on Saturday morning. It's such a pity that they don't make a 3-match series out of the North versus South, because that will be brilliant. But it's just so hard. And I think this is the 3rd time in 33 years that they've had this game. It's too hard for those guys to keep playing like that. It's too hard on the bodies. You have to keep yourself fresh to play against different countries. So I think now is the time to actually maybe try this out. Try a few different things. Out of these 2 teams, the North and South team, they can put both of them in the World Cup and they'll probably do better than 90% of the teams in the World Cup.
Oh, 100%. I mean, they're obviously going to lose to the Springboks in the final, but 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
Not all of them.
I do like being South African is until the next World Cup, there's nothing anybody can say. I love it. We are the world champions, and I don't like everybody saying the All Blacks are the best in the world, blah, blah, blah. We are world champions, and we can hold that over their heads as much as they cry. I love it.
For the next 4 years.
Absolutely love it. Hey, Woude, good stuff. 3 more years. Unbelievable. I can't believe it's, in COVID times, it's felt like 5 years, but it has been a year. Well, Woude, I'll tell you what, great stuff there in the skip pass. Hey, Woude, some good stuff. Let's take some questions. So, Dave, won't you, we'll take some questions after this, actually. Then we'll go to a break, and then we will see you in a little bit. So for those wondering, welcome back, by the way. For those wondering, where is our guest? We will have to get him back on. Hey, it's the risk of having a live show, people. That's business, baby. That is business in the live world. So Corne Krige, not on tonight, unfortunately. Apologies about that, but we'll get him back on. Don't you worry about that. Mr. Zambia himself, we'll get him back in a bit. Hey, David, let's get straight to
ask him. Sorry, Mbolela. I was very keen to ask him about his antics on the field, especially with the whole Owen Farrell situation, because we know he wasn't exactly the cleanest player around. So I actually chatted to someone today and I said, who was the dirtiest player in like Corne Krige era, so I can just kind of compare Owen Farrell to him or to that player. And then this person was like, you do know it was Corne Krige that was the dirtiest player in that era.
Oh, yeah.
So it would be very interesting to get his thoughts on this whole situation.
Oh, we'll get him back. And, yeah, he was. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you do not want to get caught. He wasn't a guy you want to get caught in a dark alley alone with. He's still. I mean, if you haven't seen him lately, by the way, go and check out his social media. The guy looks like he's 20. He's in the best. Yeah. He's him and Stefan Terblanche.
Stefan Terblanche. Oh my gosh. I saw Stefan Terblanche without a shirt on the other day. Amazing.
8-pack.
Incredible.
8-pack. The 8-pack. He's got tennis balls in his stomach. 8-pack. Just ridiculous. Oh, man. Both of those guys, when it comes to tough, oh my God.
Yeah.
Stefan Terblanche. Oh, animal. Well, we'll chat to him soon as well. He's something else. He is something else. But Corne Krige. Whoo. Yeah, looking forward to have him on. Dave, let's get some questions. What you got for us? Senzo Sitebe says, you're speaking sporting meltdowns. Kaizer Chiefs blew a 14-point lead. This is a massive bottle job. In London, they call it a bottle job. That's when you completely blow it. That's when you have absolutely messed it up. Let me be clear to you there, Senzo, as well. Kaizer Chiefs at a stage, folks, had a 20-point lead. 20-point lead. They had a 20-point lead and sacrificed that. And by the way, it's not like giving that lead up maybe in England, right? England's so you play 38 games there. In South Africa, you only play 30 games. There's only 16 teams. To give up a 20-point lead at a stage is out of this world ridiculous. Having said that, next week, we will have a representative from Kaizer Chiefs. That interview is confirmed. Look out for that. Look out on our social media because that's going to get electric. And he's promised to be as honest as possible. So Kaizer Chiefs fans, if you want to mourn, come on next week. Still working on a day, but we will confirm that. Ridiculous. What a meltdown. The biggest meltdown in South African football history. Easily. Absolutely incredible. Sam Whiteclock says, when are SA playing international sport again? It's a great question. It's a great, I mean, this is such a good question. We had
our leading question.
Yeah, that is a tough one. We had Bianca Beitendach on yesterday, and she's saying,
from my school.
She's from?
Wasn't she in my school, from George?
She is from George. Probably. There's only one school in George, isn't there?
No, there's not. She went to if she went to an English school, she went to York House, and then so, but she is from George. So we get good people from George.
Great airport. I said to her, great airport.
Because it's so small, you can't get lost.
Well, yeah. I like to, when it comes, do you know what? Airports and restaurants. I wish more were like George Airport. Here is my dream restaurant. People, I'm not into chit chat and how you doing crap. Here is my dream restaurant. They know what I want. I walk in there. I'm still chewing on my way out, and somehow the bill is magically paid, and I've already left. I'm still chewing on my way out of the door. That is George Airport. It is perfect. No chit-chat, no trolleys, no nonsense, no international people. 15 minutes, I'm out of there. So, George, that's probably one thing I'd say about you. That's good.
George Hospital's also really good, by the way.
Oh yeah, and listen, and Bianca Beitendach, she's going to win us a gold medal next year. So
yeah,
she lives in Vic Bay now. She said there was a tree there's a tree stopping them getting fiber. So weird stuff. Blew her mind when I told her about TikTok. Yeah, blew her mind. She's like, oh, can't wait for that to get to George.
I'm really happy that I'm out of it.
Yeah,
I was there this weekend, by the way. I was there this weekend. It was nice to be
in George.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome back to the First World Vody. It is good to have you back. Uncle Auntie says, Vody, MKT is doing FPL. Can we go up against you for Rugby Fantasy League?
Let's do it.
We'll have to do that next season.
Yeah. We'll do it next season. Or maybe as soon as the rugby starts in South Africa with our revised Curry Cup or whatever they're going to call it. They've got some weird name that they want to call it. We'll definitely do it. And we'll set it up and we'll let you guys know when it's up and running.
Super. Jesse Randolph says, did you start an FPL league yet? I mean, Jesse, what kind of question is that? You know, that is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Dave, you got that? Have you got the goods for us there? I mean, did we start an FPL league? Absolutely offended. So you can go up against me this season, folks. And this season, I'm taking it seriously. So I've been in touch with a few guys actually that own the FPL channel and do it for the official Premier League. So this season I'm going all in. So the MKT show FPL N1IHEH. That's the password, all lowercase. The 1 is a number. I'll repeat that password again. N, the number 1, IHEH. That is the password. And the name of the group is MKT show FPL. See if you can come up against me and defeat me. And there will be a prize. And because I'm all about winning, I literally do not care about people that come second. There will be a prize for the winner. Not prizes. It's not prizes, right? I said it yesterday. Nobody cares about all the girls you dated, the guys you dated. It's only about the person you marry. You won, lady. You won, my guy. So it's only about that one special person. If you win, prizes. And we'll come up with a cool bunch of prizes. Don't you worry about that. Especially if you like coffee, I think there'll be a very, very nice coffee prize for those who win. A very nice coffee prize, I can assure you. Absolutely delicious coffee. I'll be revealing that partnership pretty soon. The Rig says, Vody, at the top level, was there any motivation or thoughts to get some artificial assistant? Everyone's always talking about the pressure. Keen to hear your take. Vody, maybe you want to give us some context about, obviously, the level. You were at a very high level, and what sport you were at that level in.
So I started basically swimming when I was 3 years old, and I started competing when I was about 7. So from that age, I always competed against people older than me, or That's kind of just what you have to do. And so I did 7 different sports. I had provincial colors in 7 different sports throughout my entire school career. So I really never had any time for a social life, basically. But I think I'm pretty socially okay. And but I played netball, I played hockey, I did gymnastics and dancing. And the sports that I mostly focused on was athletics, swimming, and then biathlon, which is a combination between running and swimming. And for those sports, I competed at the highest level in South Africa. So I was SA champion for all of those sports. And then, sorry, Bella just knocked my earphones out of my ear. And then I also competed at World Champs. So as part of the Springbok squad that traveled overseas and competed overseas at Africa Champs and at World Champs for biathlon, which is the running and swimming, as I said. So when I went to high school, I had to choose what I was going to do because unfortunately you just can't do all of that anymore. But I think it's such a good thing to do all of those sports because literally my homework was always done. I was always on time for everything. I did my sport. I trained really hard. So I was quite a balanced person. I was on the leadership committee at school. I did all of these things at varsity. I kind of worked through and I trained through that. Competed again, but I did my honors. I was a debutante. I was haka, whatever we call it, at res. So I kind of did everything. So in my mind, this was kind of just my life. And yes, there was the pressure, but it was mostly pressure from people that would be like, okay, geez, Woude, you keep winning the whole time, so they don't like me because of that. Or when I don't win, they would be like, oh, why didn't you win? You came second. You're not good enough anymore. So it was a lot of internal things for me to deal with. And having that feeling like, oh, people are jealous of you, so you have that pressure. People think you're not good enough. It was artificial stuff. I never even thought of it. It never crossed my mind. It was probably too good to need it because I was winning the whole time.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm joking. No, it never crossed my mind. But there is a lot of pressure on these kids. And I don't think we realize what we as people, the pressure we put on them. Because like I said, oh my gosh, you won again. Now the girls don't like me because I'm training with the guys and I'm training. So I think that was there was a lot of pressure that I had to deal with from that point of view, is that people don't like you because you're so good, or people are jealous because my boyfriend looked at you at training because you train together 7 times a week, which is absolutely ridiculous. But so those were a lot of things that I had to deal with at school, which I hated school. I could never want to go back purely because of these things. But from a training point of view, I loved it. I loved every single second of training. We trained hard. It could be hailing, raining, insane. And we would still train. And that was my mindset. It was never something different for me at all. At varsity, it was the same thing. That was my life. I still studied. I still cummed my course, still did my honors, and I still competed. Yes, now if I look back, I wouldn't change that. I don't want to compete at that level anymore right now. And I'm enjoying being able to run with friends or go for a hike or go for a trail run. But at that point, I wouldn't change it at all.
Hey, Woude, future gold medalist Bianca Beitenbach, who was on yesterday, said she was focused on her inner circle, that because she's, I mean, very similar. You guys were wunderkinds and rocking the world at the highest level at a very young age. And she said it was all about the inner circle for her. She said one thing she really was grateful for was early on, she got her inner circle right. So it was her dad, her mom, a very strong coach, and one compatriot from the World Surfing League Tour. So for you, to not have that, I can imagine what that pressure's like. Steroids or whatever it may be in that recovery moment, I presume is what the question meant about artificial assistance. But it would be interesting to hear from your take when you were competing at the very top and the pressure was at its highest. And look, you were a young lady. The world puts a different type of pressure on women. So I couldn't really speak to that. But it would be interesting to you. Did you have an inner circle that kept reassuring you when you had those internal sort of pressures from yourself and you weren't feeling so good about yourself, you were injured, you lost the race? Who reassured you that, listen, it's okay, let's stay on track, here's the plan?
Look, I was a very bad loser. Very, very bad loser. And that's something that I had to learn.
Listen, might be a George thing. Bianca Baker yesterday told us at the age of 12, she was in a public bathroom. She was locking herself in a public bathroom and throwing a strop when she was 12 because she couldn't beat 20-year-olds. So that's what she was 12. So maybe you guys you shared it. Yeah, because you want to win. But that's what it takes to get to the top.
Yeah. No, I threw tantrums. I would be crying if I didn't win. I was a terrible, terrible loser. But I definitely had my inner circle. So my family, very, very big supporters of mine. My mom and my dad. I actually thought about this the other day, and when I was in George now, all my trophies are still kind of displayed, which is very sweet. But my mom never missed one of my biathlon races ever. There was only one race that I ever competed without her, and that was when I was at varsity. The last essays, I was living in Potchefstroom. And obviously it was very far to travel, and she was working at that stage. They never missed one. My dad was always at the swimming. My mom never missed any of my biathlon races. And this race that I had to compete all by myself, all of a sudden, this is what amazing. I phoned my high school running coach. I phoned him and I said, I need you to talk me through this. So they were still supporting me at that point. So I had these people that I could phone, would phone my mom before the time, I would phone that coach who wasn't even my coach anymore before that time. And it's amazing to know that you have those people. But those people also do put a lot of pressure on you. And my parents also put a lot of pressure on me, not deliberately, but they just knew what I could achieve. And when I maybe didn't feel like training, that pressure that they would put on. So, and I'm grateful for the fact that they did that, because I would never have achieved what I achieved if I just gave in and said, like, nah, I don't feel like training today. I don't feel like waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go swimming. So, yeah, as a kid, you don't really understand what your parents do for you. But
how interesting. Yeah. That's amazing. Elite performance is such a fascinating world. And that's so great to hear that you had your inner circle.
And it's never friends. It's never the friends in your grade. It's never the people. So yes, they would be there when you win, but they would never be there when you needed that. So definitely my mom, they still had this joke where before a race, they couldn't talk to me at all because it was terrible to be around and I was focusing, so they couldn't. So my brother would be like standing like far away. He'd be like, do you need water? Do you need to go wee? They would be like far away.
So you were locked in, huh?
Yeah, I was locked in.
Yeah. Hey, you elite athletes, once you are in that zone, that can be, you got to get out, stay away. It is time to go and win. So very interesting. That's super. It's incredible how many similarities you have to what Bianca was saying yesterday. Yeah. I guess winning, there's all those traits, tenacity and all of that she was saying. So, wow, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So with this question, Dave, hold this question, please, because there is quite a moment here, and it's very, very sad for me. I didn't really want to bring it up because I know sport is meant to be relief, but Lulama Kabaga, a very good friend of mine, and condolences to him because he's just lost his mother. So to you, Lulama, I just want to say my absolute condolences. A very, very close friend and a great man, like not just a good friend, more of a brother. So condolences to him. But I will read his question now. Lou says, I'm a 49ers fan. So Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback there with Kyle Shanahan. That is going to be an interesting setup. And they've upgraded even more. That is just an insane team. He says, I'm a 49ers fan, and there was a time they had one of the best teams in the league. Great offense, great defense, but their draft picks and their trades the last 5 years have been questionable. Look, they've just re-upped Shanahan, and they've now gone all in. Of course, we got his dad, Mike Shanahan, of course, famous for winning those. The Denver salute up there. He turned Denver into a different animal with TD, of course, Stink. He had Shannon Sharp, of course, who changed the tight end game. So Shanahan is there, and they've gone all in. They've gone run heavy. Jimmy Garoppolo, we saw what they did. Is they're not fully in on Jimmy, is they took the ball out of his hand when it counted. So now we're looking at Shanahan and that defense. I think he's turned it up because the first 2 seasons, we're going to lay the base. But now it's very clear. Run first, very, very clear. Ground and pound. Jimmy Garoppolo, every now and then you'll throw those screens, but very rarely are they going to let him throw 30, 40 times in a game. So, Lulama, I think for you guys as the 49ers, Super Bowl last year. And by the way, Jimmy Garoppolo, 3 meters away from being Super Bowl champs. And Patrick Mahomes, when you turn it around, I mean, 12 points, really, once you're 12 points down at halftime, you should be losing a Super Bowl. So 49ers, they are back. Listen, Shanahan, his dad, of course, a consultant, Mike Shanahan in the house. So he's got some culture there. And Mike Shanahan's young, like 50, I think 60, 65 years young. I think you got something on. Jimmy G. Jimmy G needs to stop dating adult film stars, though. That's going to make it awkward. That happened. Dave, what you got?
Comment.
G. Scott says, can we revisit the Djokovic thing? Should slamming your balls in an old lady's face be a disqualification event? And would Owen Farrell have been DQ'd if he was a tennis player? Well, good question there. Vodi, I'm not sure if you saw Novak Djokovic, who doesn't believe in COVID, and what he did. Your thoughts?
No, I did see it. So I was actually asking another tennis player this kind of question, and how do the players normally get rid of that ball at the end of like a game or whatever? And they said they normally kind of, because I thought, oh, maybe he was really just trying to get rid of the ball. And then they said, no, you kind of like play it on the ground, and you have to look at what's going on around you. And you have to take that responsibility as a player to see where that ball is going to go. If you play your rallies, you know where you're going to hit that ball. So I guess when you get rid of the ball, you should. But remember, you also threw a tantrum right before that happened, where he also smashed that ball into the side. So he was not thinking straight. So if he's going to keep having that behavior, look, I'm not a Djokovic fan at all. And I think what I've seen of him in this tournament is made me even less of a fan. And so for me, those are the rules. That's a DQ. I've defaulted in that. I agree with that decision. At first, I didn't. And then I started asking questions, and I started talking to people who know more about tennis than I do. And then I also saw his tantrum, obviously, that we threw before that. So I think he was very unlucky that he did hit the person, but he should have looked what was going on around him.
How about that? How about the lady milking it, though? I mean, geez, like, are you kidding me?
They're American. What do you expect?
I mean, come on. Like,
but then I also,
you're lying.
But then I
like,
also think,
did you see how many paramedics they had to bring out there?
But
like,
then Djokovic was standing like literally by her face without a mask on. That was also.
Well, he doesn't believe in coronavirus.
No, but no one of the paramedics thought to maybe tell him, listen, just move a little bit, because she also then took her mask off, and these two were like talking this close to each other. No one even thought of
swapping saliva. Swapping saliva. Just
so look, it was stupid of Djokovic, but Djokovic is a very. I think Djokovic needs to learn that he needs to control his temper. Maybe now this happening, maybe he'll learn from it and he'll change. Remember, Federer was also quite a vocal player in his younger years, and he also threw a few tantrums, and he had to learn and look at the incredible person that he is on and off the field or on and off the court now. He had to learn and adjust.
So the only part that sucked for me about the whole thing, obviously the lady's acting, just outrageous. Golden Globe, no Oscar. But the only thing that sucked for me about Djokovic is, listen, I believe in personality. I have a strong personality, and I'm going to always go with my opinion. I'm very poor at listening. I often go with my own opinion. But if you're going to be that cocky person, right, and that aggressive person, you must put up with the consequences. I hated that he walked out. See, I don't like that in people. Is if you're going to be a combustible, strong character, you must be willing to put up with the consequences. In life, I'm sorry, you got to be willing to. I mean, the saying is, you got to be willing to do the time for the weapon you carry. So if you're going to be aggressive and out there and then when people don't like you or they push back, don't act the victim. Like, yes. I don't like that about Djokovic. Like, you're not the victim, and now he's apologizing soppy on Instagram. If you're going to be aggressive, Mr. Cool, too cool for school, then you go and sit in front of the media and you take the bullets, right? Exactly. That's life. Like,
But bringing in the Owen Farrell point to that question is also what you were saying before. So Djokovic got fined, or he's losing all his winnings from this tournament. And we obviously know that the winnings have been upped in this tournament. So even the people who lose in the first round, they're getting more. So he lost all of his winnings in this tournament, and he's getting fined. So like you said before, Owen Farrell should be losing money in this situation. And that's exactly what they do in every other sport. Why don't we have it in rugby? So Djokovic, yes, he got DQ'd out of the competition, but you're also losing everything that you made up until that point. And it wasn't a little money. It was actually quite a lot. I think the first round loss was something like $60,000. So it was quite a lot of money up until that point already. And so that's what they need to bring in. They need to bring that into rugby. Owen Farrell needed to lose a lot of money. Otherwise, you're not going to learn.
Great point. Dave, what's next? Senzo Sitebe. This is an easy one. Listen, Ben Roethlisberger had a really... Senzo Sitebe says, the Steelers are washed up. They can forget. Very true. Big Ben Roethlisberger, Ben 7, had a revelation. His Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, came into his life, and he had a rather embarrassing Zoom conversation about his... He had an addiction to relieving himself sexually, shall we say, which was admitted to his church group, and his church group went and exposed that. So he's a new Big Ben. He says, hey, I've got my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and somebody did him dirty by exposing that. And that was in a church group, by the way. So, hey, do with that what you will. Big Ben Roethlisberger is back. He's got Jesus on his side. He had Tommy John surgery in the off season, so he can't lose. He's got JC 0-0, and he's got Tommy John surgery. He says it's the first time he's ever worked out in the off season, and let's see how Big Ben does this season. But forget it. I think Mike Tomlin's under pressure. The Rooney's great ownership group down there in Pittsburgh, but I think the Yinzers are going to be tired if they don't go at least 10-6 and go. Listen, you got to win at least one playoff game. Mike Tomlin's in big trouble. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's going to have to show that it wasn't just having AB. Of course, they were doubling AB, which meant Juju had single coverage, and then he went over 1,000 yards receiving. Last year, everything down. You got to be the number one guy. This is a huge year for Juju Smith-Schuster. Maybe get off TikTok, maybe get off social media, Juju. You're going to have to deliver. James Conner, big contract year for him at running back. So let's see how it goes. Big Ben, maybe he's changing that leadership style, not being that cocky guy. Let's see. I've always said Ben's overrated, but Senzo, I tend to agree. Dave, what's next? Master Chief says, how many times is it acceptable not to rinse your coffee cup when remaking coffee? I usually do about 7 cups until it's overnight. Then I rinse the dry milk out the bottom of the cup. What kind of animal are we dealing with here? It's absolutely revolting, Master Chief. Vody, I'll take this one.
I don't
you're
drink
a monster.
coffee, so I can't anyway.
No, Master Chief, you're a monster. What you need is I'm sorry, we got to go old school here. You need a thorough beating in public. Or maybe not. Maybe that's a bit brutal. What we should do, like the olden days, is tie you up in the town square and throw rotten tomatoes at you until you realize what a monster you are. Absolutely ridiculous. Horrendous. The Rig says, Vody, you mentioned returning to running after a long layoff. My bro joined me for the first run in years. 8 kilometers at 5:40. He couldn't walk home afterwards due to ITB. How can he get back to 5K runs? Good question. It's a slight difference between Vody and your brother. Vody was an SA athlete for 10 years. That makes a slight difference. But anyway, Vody, your thoughts?
So I must say, after my run on Saturday, after the 6 kilometers that I did, I also had a bit of ITB issues because obviously I didn't, although I'm a biokineticist, I'm also an athlete. So that competitiveness immediately kicks in. And you're like, oh no, I can't run at 5:30 a kilometer. It's too slow. I'm going to run 5:10. And then yes, the ITB gets sore. So it was stupid. Slow it down. But I think the best way to probably get into it is to start with like a run walk, maybe run for 2 minutes, walk for a minute kind of thing, and then start building it up from there. It's not worth it to try and run 8 kilometers right from the start and just injure yourself and then just out again. So starting slowly, run, walk, build it up, run for longer until you get to a 5K. Yeah.
There you have it.
And do
There
your
you
strength
have it.
work. Do your strength work with a biokineticist because it really helps. Strengthen up those glutes, boys. I know you boys don't like doing the glute work and doing the irritating work. And Bolela, you've seen me before and I've given you some glute exercises before. It's not fun, but it's worth it.
It is not.
But it's worth it.
Here we go. Great advice. Great advice. Hey, Dave, let's maybe take one more question and then we'll get the hell out of here. Oh, Leon says, Woude, what's the next pick we will get for you now that your Bok World Cup squad is done?
Ooh. I'll have to think about
an
this.
Interesting one. That's a good question.
If any of you have ideas, please send them to me, but I will think about it and I will come back to you with a pick for next week, maybe. James Dalton is obviously on with me again next week, so maybe him and I will do a pick and a disagreement because I don't agree with James because I don't think he knows what he's talking about. So we will maybe, but I will definitely think about it. Maybe we should pick something like, Bolela, what do you think? Pick uncapped Springbok players or something like that? I don't know.
That'll be a good one. That will be a good one. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. I'll have to let it stew. Yeah, I'm still thinking about that person that leaves their cup overnight with that milk, 7 cups of coffee before they wash it. I mean, what kind of these are the types of people where I tend to think to myself, you don't deserve civil rights. You don't deserve to be able to walk outside with the rest of us. You shouldn't be allowed to walk in a park where there's children. Damn it. Revolting. Absolutely revolting. Hey, Woude, good stuff. Good to have you back. We will see you next week. And very, very cool to have you back, and great to talk about some rugby. Looking forward to, you and James, I think the best rugby show in South Africa, and I'm not just saying that because it's our show. The last episode 2 weeks ago, if you haven't listened to it, unbelievable. The best content we have produced, hands down. So Woude, great to have you back. Can't wait to see you next week.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, for this evening, it has been Woude Muller, it has been me, it has been Big Shot Media, CliffCentral. It is the MKT show. We have pivoted the name. Tomorrow, all Premier League all the time. All Premier League all the time. I'll give you my Friday 5, but then we'll chat everything Premier League. Cannot wait. Ladies and gentlemen, for today, the MKT show wraps up. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.